So, Exodus begins, and it starts with a story of miraculous growth. The nation is bursting at the seams and it's filling the land that's been allotted to them. Israel is so fruitful that the language used in Exodus 1 is the same language used of creation. But a new Egyptian king arises, which brings a dramatic change to the children of Israel's circumstances. The new Pharaoh sees the expansion of Israel as an existential threat to his own nation. And no longer seen as honoured guests, the Israelites are enslaved, and they're forced to build great treasure cities for the worldly king in their own land. But still, Israel grows. The oppression isn't enough to slow down this population explosion, so Pharaoh turns to even more drastic action: genocide. And genocide by the murder of Israel's baby boys. In Exodus 1, Israel experiences the sort of persecution that's defined their race ever since. Captivity in Babylon, the Roman invasion of AD 70, and pogroms throughout the Middle Ages, and of course finally the Holocaust, all follow the exact same pattern. Yet amidst this darkness bursts two shining lights. The midwives, who have been commanded by Pharaoh to kill the baby boys of Israel, form the core of the resistance, and they courageously stand up to the most powerful men alive. Both Shiphrah and Puah have names which indicate a shining or a brightness, and they're the first examples in Exodus of the seed of the woman resisting this evil seed of the serpent. Pharaoh even has a serpent on his headdress just to hammer home the similarities. And still, Israel grows. When Pharaoh's plan A and plan B fail, he turns to plan C. Every Egyptian is commanded to throw any Hebrew baby boy that they find into the Nile. Now, this atrocity is not going to be forgotten by God. In the first plague, he'll turn the Nile to blood to remind Egypt of what they did to his people. And in the final picture of our study, we'll see the Egyptians meet the exact same fate that they had intended for God's baby boys. Now, despite God's apparent absence in chapter 1, he hasn't forgotten his promises. He is working providentially to set up the birth of a saviour from the very waters that Israel was supposed to be destroyed in.
One of the most exciting gems of the whole study of Exodus is found in the first 5 words of chapter 1. In Hebrew, the book of Exodus is named after this opening phrase, and these are the names, or Shemot. This should set us up to keep a close eye out for the names in this book. Things like the names of the midwives shining out of the darkness, like the fact that there are no Egyptian names mentioned in the entire book. Most importantly, like God's own name revealed at the bush. We recommend listening to this short podcast by Brother Richard Morgan for more about this little gem.
In chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "These are the names of the sons of Israel." And it goes through a whole list of names there from verse 1 down to...
We're going to leave you with 2 challenging questions for this section. Firstly, notice that the Hebrew midwives are praised for having the fear of God. What is the fear of God? See if you can find some quotes to explain what it means to fear God. The second question is about the word Hebrew. The Israelites are referred to as both the children of Israel and as Hebrews in this chapter. What does it mean to be a Hebrew in the Bible? And why is that title relevant to use here?
Find and colour in the words relating to Israel's fruitfulness and multiplying in Exodus 1 that are also used in Genesis 1. Note in your margin that the creation of Israel is paralleled to the creation of the world. You might also like to add these extra quotes about the new creation that God will accomplish in us.
Exodus 1 paints a dismal picture of our state without Christ. This is Israel before Moses, their Saviour is born. They are enslaved and oppressed, serving a terrible master who will only give them death. Compare this to Romans 6, where, without Christ, we are slaves to sin, which will only lead to death. They are carrying heavy burdens for their captors, the same sins and burdens of mortality that we carry, that Christ offers to make easier in Matthew 11. This is you without Christ.
Pray for courage like the midwives Shiphrah and Puah, to stand up for God and against the world, despite the consequences.